Welcome to Gen 365 podcast. This is an initiative of Beyond the Veil Mission. And this is a podcast for the community to empower a generation of healing and hope 365 days of the year. Come.
Thank you.
Letype, Arielle, Aaron, and your host Lydia. And today's topic is interesting. We have heard of gender inequalities, but today we are discussing orgasm inequalities. So, friends, our guests, have you heard of orgasm inequality?
Definitely first time.
Yeah, an interesting question. But I think I'll let the girls go first here. That is...
They can go ahead.
Lydia, do you mind defining what you think that what is it orgasm inequality is? So that
that's why I asked you, have you heard of orgasm inequality term? Any of you?
No, personally it's the first time.
Personally,
okay, that is interesting. Okay,
I think I've heard about it, not like inequalities, but I've heard. Well, I don't know, like maybe if you explain, I will know if that's true, but I think I've heard about something similar to that. Maybe as long throughout, I will understand if that's what it means.
Okay, what did you hear first?
So, like the orgasm inequalities, because we know, like when there is like sexual intercourse, right?
Mm-hmm.
The two people, they have, I guess, to have the orgasm, if I may say.
Mm-hmm.
Right? There is like a level of pleasure and satisfaction that both of them have to meet.
Mm-hmm.
So the orgasm inequalities to me is when there is one part that reaches that satisfaction, if I may say, or that level of, and
mm-hmm.
then the other doesn't reach that level. And when I say I heard about it, there is this show in France called Ça commence aujourd'hui. There were some ladies who were on set, and they explained how the first time they have had an orgasm. Some of them, they're like in their 50s, in their 60s,
Whoa.
After being married for a long time. So I think it applies more to women suffering that inequality, because like for men, when you ejaculate, like job is done. But sometimes to women, when the man is done, some of them, they are done. Like it's done. They don't care if the woman is satisfied, whatever. So I heard like women suffer more. So I don't know if that's what it means, like the
yes, I think you got it right. I think it's more of like the orgasm inequality is the idea of that the women are the demographic experience less orgasm than men. That means men are more likely to experience orgasm than women. So, for example, I tried to look into, there are many studies and many case studies. But most of the time, maybe the recent one from Forbes, one was that 39% of women were able to reach orgasm because they did masturbate, while 95% of men in heterosexual marriages were able to achieve orgasm more. And 6% of women, this is a Forbes study, so by the way, 2 years ago, 6% of women were able to orgasm during during sex. And I looked into another research from Psychology Today. I case study from 15,000 college students. So where they say that 63% of women were able to orgasm and 85% of men compared to 85% of men. So there are many studies, but you can always see a huge gap. And I think most of the time you see that they all have something in common. They keep sharing is that women are more likely to orgasm when they're able to give themselves to give themselves like, the pleasure, I would just be clear through masturbation. So that's where the term is from. So this topic was more likely, discussing the gender gap in sexual pleasure. I want to hear your thoughts. I want to hear what are your thoughts between sex now and then, anything, just throw it there. Are you shocked by the findings? And also something I can mention, they say the reason why most of the time this continue to happen in women is because there is a lack of understanding of women anatomy. So then I'm like, are women responsible to disclose what needs to be done to know better their bodies, or men are responsible to get to discover and understand how to take care of a woman's body? So I want to hear your thoughts.
Okay, let me go first. So personally, I think it goes further to our culture and how culture perceives women in general, where there is always a taboo and a shame around any sexual conversation when it comes to women. And that it's basically, like you said, that there is a gender gap between men and women. When a young boy wants to make a statement that he's a man, he's encouraged to have sex or to engage in any sexual act, while a woman is encouraged to keep her virginity as the measure of her value. Mm-hmm. So you don't wake up and be 25 and just be like, oops, those ideas just fly out of your head. No, they're still there. And that goes back into the relationship where actually most research shows that men are more direct and explicit in expressing their desires, while women give like hints and clues that are more subtle because of that shame and that taboo that is that hinders their open communication. So I think that has a big part to do with it. It's not because women do not know their bodies. It's more of the communication and the shame that comes with a woman engaging in any sexual conversation, whether with a partner or even in a society at large. So
I agree with Dodo. I think definitely there's the shame and the lack of I would say access. Privilege is all about access. It's you don't have access to sexual intercourse, especially when you identify as a female, until when you get time to get married. But I will also say that on top of that, there's also the view that culturally, and then looking at it from a Rwandan perspective, which I always found very intriguing, and I'll explain why. So in the Rwandan culture, the idea is that you're there, and a lot of African spaces is you're there to satisfy your man. You're a successful woman if your man comes, which I also have a question for the man that they will answer with. They're do you always orgasm when you ejaculate? My theory is that no, but you would tell us.
Interesting.
So there's that responsibility first that, as a woman, you serve your man, and there is, let's be honest, there is cues if quote unquote a man has come, which is why I'm asking if ejaculation is orgasm. So there's cues as to if you have done your job as a woman in a family sector. So that's number one. Number two, though, I also think that porn plays a big role as to how sex is actually done in real life. Like I said, I'm a marketeer and I've been obsessed with Axe. So as you may know, Axe deodorant used to be for young boys 15, and the whole idea of Axe was that if you pose yourself and you smell like Axe, a normal average guy could get any woman. And of course, Axe, the brand, started losing sales. This whole story makes sense. It started losing sales, and the company was very worried, as this is an iconic brand, why are we losing sales? And they came to find that the idea of the average man had actually changed. It wasn't just a nerd or a skinny guy in high school that was looking for the hottest girl. The average guy now is no longer in the spaces, actually. If we are going back to the conversation we had about digital era, the average guy is spending most of his time online. He's consuming a lot of information of everything is learning about life, how to have sex, how to apply for a job. Everything is online. So they came to learn that actually the average man today has much options of sex and intimacy, and everyone can have all sorts of sex. Today's men are actually they're less brave than the average guy back in the 90s because of being online, and that's why they're learning sex. And if you look at what they're learning there, a lot of it's from a porn specific, and porn has never been at the forefront of women's empowerment in your bedroom. So basically, what they're learning is that even if people are consuming so much information about sex, they actually know the good and bad, which actually adds on to this part of like women not being satisfied. Because let's be honest, the women's body is complex. I'm a big proponent of masturbate yourself out to your life, because what happens until those point, you know what's happening in your body. Like, female bodies work differently, and except if you're with someone for the longest of your life and this person wants to explore you, if you explore yourself, it's like a little manual. Be like, boo boo, touch here, go, like, you know, things are pretty clear. So I would say that this inequality stems from the idea that first, female pleasure, it's a job. It's not pleasure. It's a job that you have to do to satisfy your man. Second, the way that pleasure is being learned is not pleasure. It's I would say like it's omnivalent. It's like artificial, superficial pleasure that doesn't actually work in the real world. That's why today Axe actually helps the average man get out of his computer to go meet the average like woman or man, whatever they are into at that time. But I would say that the last part is truly, I don't think women themselves know their bodies enough to appreciate the intricacy that it is to be a female, you know? You can't just come from a vagina, women. You can come from many places. I'm just saying. Explore them.
Interesting. I want to hear the men though. Thank you so much. Those are great insights. And I think you raised a good point. You say, like, you know, especially, I don't know why I really picked that one. Just because men ejaculate doesn't mean that they're having an orgasm. And I want to hear what men think about that. Is that what it is?
For sure. Well, the first topic that you brought up, orgasm inequality.
Yes.
Definitely, just to expound on that, I think it's more than just sex. I think orgasm is more like pleasure. And when you see most of the couples, maybe like Arielle said, the way most girls are told or how to be or whatever, is more like submitting to a man. Yes, submitting is definitely, there is a way to submit, but it's not to blindly, I would say, to submit and just following. And like, if you're not having pleasure both ways, if like, let's say you're going places you don't like, just it's all that is can translate to all that. So I think definitely having the like, guys need to know, definitely ask more. Women need to be more open, and I think these are topics that are like sort of like taboo, but I think which are very important, and I think which are some of the reason why most marriages don't last really long. So I feel like things like that. So guys need to be taught to know, like, let's say if you have, if you're like, let's say you're getting married, your girl is the first time, whatever, how to treat them, how whatever, things like that, and how that is important and how it can impact them for their future life and all that. So I think it's definitely something important that people need to pay attention to. But I think, like you say, I think for a guy, it would be more like, guys are people who like to serve. So we are more like, a real man should be like willing to serve. So it's a person who is willing to serve is more looking into the person they are serving, not them, I would say, specifically. So I definitely think even most guys would be appreciate to know exactly maybe what maybe they can do. And yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and by the way, before we hear from
I'll let Letype continue from here, because
yes,
this is definitely a interesting question.
One thing I want to clarify, because I know this conversation, can get taboo in our culture. However, even like the findings that I was sharing, these are studies from North America. These are really, you know, it's not just this is happening in one part of the world. These are really the experience of many women and men across the world. So, you know, the other thing as well, the conversation about sexual pleasure, I think sexual pleasure is part of well-being. We are having this conversation because we have to normalize the importance of sex and wellness. Because when you look at, when you hear in therapy rooms, many couples come in because of many issues in the marriage, and top ones most of the time it's sex, finances, and why not this conversation cannot be important for our community, not just for married people, but also starting from the younger community members, starting from the younger generation. So I think it's understanding that sex wellness is important. It does contribute to your well-being. It does stop you from having a stroke at the young age. It really, your mental health was given, also explaining also. But let me hear from Letype first. But I just want you to feel comfortable. This is a topic you might feel, especially for Aaron. I think, it's not thinking that you're having the wrong
Why are you singling me out?
Conversation. This is part of your needs and your well-being.
Aaron wants to serve, ladies. He wants to serve.
He wants to serve. He was sounding more political, like making a speech.
Send in your request. We have a serving man.
That means he's
ladies,
here to serve.
Protect and serve.
Arielle took the conversation to another level. I have to slowly come up. Right? We were at 50, anyway, she took it at 100.
Yeah. So to answer to what Arielle said, ejaculation doesn't mean orgasm to men. Mm-hmm. So, and to me, I think the problem of orgasm, it's not really complicated to solve. It's easy because to me, like we say, like sex is like pleasure, like orgasm is pleasure. So, and then it's funny how men can talk among themselves about the maybe sexual inabilities of their partners between men, and women can do the same, but the couple can talk between themselves about those problems. So to me, I think that to be able to solve that thing, it's easy if the couple, if the two partners could talk. Like Arielle said, the woman body is complex, but are you able to explain to your partner how complex your body is? And is your partner ready to listen to you without judging you and willing to learn and accept that he needs to learn because you together, you have to give pleasure to each other. So yeah. I think that inequalities can be, like the studies, the numbers can go up on both sides. That, if people talk between themselves and then, because even for men, all of us don't act the same way. We have, our particularities. Like every man is different from one another. The same way all women are different. So if people talk, that orgasm inequality can be solved, I guess.
Okay, I think that leads us to the communication part. Before you share, I want to tell you something someone told me recently, and I think I heard from many people. We're having a conversation between a group of younger people like you, and they were saying something. I'm in Rwanda right now, and they were saying something like, a man would marry a woman and, and don't perform really well in bed just out of respecting the wife. And then we go out to look for other women where they're going to do, all the great, where they're going to practice all the great parts. So, and also women, I think Doriane and Arielle touched base on that one, because there's so much shame around sex and pleasure when it comes to women. When they get married, they will be afraid to show their men what they're capable of, because the man will be like, where did you learn that? He's smart. And then when they get a chance outside, they will really show off. When they come home, it will be Duka to Jami. So I want to hear that.
That is so true. I think when Letype was talking, actually, it made me think of like, let's just remove like orgasm from the conversation and just look at it from an inequality perspective. Any inequality being race, gender, height, you name it, it has, I think, two sides to it. There is inequality exists because one group believes that they're superior to the other. That's how inequality exists. There's at the base, this hurt is bigger than the other ones, and then there are forces that are put in place to profit whoever has the superior power. And that's how inequalities continues to increase. Any form of inequality, being financial, political, whatever you want. The only way for inequalities to actually disappear, there are two ways to go about it. There's either the superior group acknowledges this inequality exists and then tries to bring in whoever they have pushed out of that sphere into the conversation. Think of it like right now, like all the diversity and inclusion perspective at work. A lot of it is like a lot of white men have realized that, you know what, people need to be part of this conversation. So that's number one. That one has never worked. I don't believe that people lose privilege just because they want to be nice. People lose privilege because there's another force pushing them to lose privilege, which is usually the inferior power that is pushing for that. Think of like Martin Luther King, human rights, and everything about that. So on to back, not the conversation of orgasm. I think I'll look at it from that two sides. Who has power? Who have privilege and access? What has made it that they have that power over the other side? I think understanding what drives that fundamentally is how you can tackle how to change that. We say that culture plays a big role. How we have socially interact together plays a big role. How we learn about sex, either digitally at work, not at work, Jesus Christ, like, you know, families, all about it is about uplifting this inferiority that already exists. So which brings now to like, who is at the forefront of being the inferior part, which is usually people who identify as women. So which brings to the question is that, are women ready to go on riot for orgasms? You know, push the patriarchy. We fight for orgasms. You know, it's that route. You know,
I think that's a piece women deliver forgot. I didn't hear about that during conference.
You know, it's a revolution. We want orgasm. So if you want orgasm, though, do you know what an orgasm is? Coming back to you exploring the multitude of your orgasm, and then you can push the power softly by being like white women in feminism and chit-chatting with men, or you can be like black women in corporate and fight it until you get it. Mm-hmm. So I would say that once you understand why the inequality exists, which we have all of us given part, there's a part where it's either the power, whoever controls the orgasm, be like, hey, this is pleasure for both of us, how can we get to it? Or if they don't understand, you know, boo, go write someone else. You orgasm. Those are my 2 cents.
I mean, I agree with what Arielle said, but I think there's also another component that we cannot leave out. Like Lydia said that most of the people that go for couple counseling, you find that problem keep arising, right? So which means that most of the times this issue is actually somehow intertwined with emotions, with you know, because there is marriage, there's relationship in there. It's not like a stranger, you know, like she was saying about inequality or inclusion. There is, if it's black and versus white, the only thing that is, you know, putting us on this platform is that we probably want equal rights in making decisions or this, but there's no personal emotions involved. But most of the times with this particular issue, there is personal emotions involved. So which makes things a little bit complicated. I think it's important that, like Arielle was saying, that the people who are in the position of power understands the importance of this is beyond just the act of sex. This is something that will actually transpire into the entire life of the relationship of the couple and the family. So I think it's more of people looking at, especially for us in our culture, where people have to look at it beyond the act and actually see it as how many areas of my life does this particular thing affect? Because for me, I'm in the health field, so I look at it more than the act. There is the hormones, there is the mental, the psychology that goes with it, and all those things are actually makes us who we are. It keeps our sanity or it disrupts our sanity. So I think people should be more educated about, like they say, the anatomy, but also beyond the anatomy. How does the anatomy goes with the psychology of this, and how does this affect us across board?
Thank you. Yeah, so I think also too, those are really great perspective. And I think on the episode 23, we discussed more about that, especially thinking about adolescents. When they are growing, there are actually more than two hormones in their bodies stimulating the need to eat, the need to have sex. And what we see often, if the younger boys, maybe teen boys, are expressing the need, maybe sexual needs, parents would be like, more like, he's a man, he's really a man. And then the woman would be like, oh my God, she might get pregnant. It's like, all the shame, nobody look at them. We don't even have a healthy conversation to teach them what are the healthier way maybe to approach this. Because this is, as Doriane saying, this is really their body, their physiology, really commanding them of what to do. I'm raising teens. They eat like crazy. They eat a lot. And this is not them. This is their body really, really releasing hormones that cause them to eat a lot. But during that time, this is when we suppress the teenagers, the adolescent, and then by the time they become adult, then they have a negative relationship, of understanding what is sex is, what is the healthy sex. So this is my thought. These are my thoughts, but also I'm thinking, what are the ways we communicate our sexual needs and boundaries differently between men and women? Because I think also if there is an issue, then there is something missing in ways that we communicate our needs. I want to hear from everyone, and then we can close this conversation. Maybe so we can learn from the male's perspective and then learn from the women's perspective. So I want to hear your thoughts.
Can you repeat the question for me?
So what are the ways we communicate our sexual needs and boundaries in a different ways? This is like, between a man and women. How do we communicate our sexual needs in a different way?
You mean like in a couple?
Okay. Partners or couples, however,
So you mean like two people
So,
who
for
have
example, let me give you an example. If we are, let's go traditional way. If a man and a woman, or maybe partners are having sex, most of the time, traditionally, women would expect that a man knows what to do. They would just lay down, expect that a man would deliver and make things work. But then we are learning so much, especially empowering women to really understand and recognize their body and be able to communicate what they need. I think I shared one theory that I always share with people, with other women. For me, a woman's body during a sexual act is more likely you are inviting a guest in a dark room. They don't know where to go, but you know the whole house really well. So you have a responsibility to show them around, tell them, oh, this is the right place, turn around, stop, move, things like that. So I think for me, that's the way as a woman, I will communicate my needs so my partner can understand what are my sexual needs. So I need to know what are the differences. How do we express that in a different way from a male's perspective and women's perspective?
For me, okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Okay. So I was going to say that personally, I think everything starts with education, because the moment people are educated about something, it becomes easy to talk about. The same way, if 20 years ago you would have told people, or Africans to be specific, that there could be medical marijuana, they would have looked at you as if you're a crazy person. But today, people know that that's a thing. today governments are, funding those kind of projects because it's, with the education about it, with the education about how it can be used in a way that is profitable and efficient, people are using it. So it's the same thing. I think there has to be, first of all, education about the whole aspect, because there is a shame that is imposed on women that doesn't allow them to have that safe space of actually talking about it, talking about their experiences, instead of someone talking about it and feel like they're going to ask me, how did you learn about this? Then create that non-judgmental safe space for women to actually be able to express themselves. Because I can guarantee you that it's not that many women do not know what they want. It's just that they're afraid to express it because of the judgment that might come with it. So it starts with both men and women being educated about the sexual topic or the sex topic without any bias or taboo, but as the same way we can learn about how the nerves in our brain work or our legs, whatever it might be, let's learn about it, first of all, anatomically or biologically, physiologically first. Understand that this is a part of our daily life. This is a part of who people are. The same way you can be thirsty and want to drink water is the same way that sexual needs exist. And denying it or putting a taboo or shame on it is not going to make it go away. So once people understand that, I feel like it's going to open more room to have safe and open and transparent conversations.
Mm-hmm. I need to ask you a question, Doriane.
Yeah.
In a real world, if there was no taboo, no barriers in terms of, expressing ourselves freely of our sexual needs, what are the ways women can express their needs? Let's say there's no taboo, there's no shame. Would you give some of the tips, some of the ideas? How can that look like?
Honestly, I think
how to express them.
Honestly, I think so. I think for me, I feel like the expression is the same as the love languages. The same way we don't all have the same love languages. I can't tell someone, oh, you have to express your love language to your partner like this because this is how I express mine, because that person might not be like me. Some people might feel comfortable expressing themselves verbally. Others like to write, emotions, because for most women, sex is more emotional than just physical. It really goes with our, trust me. Yeah.
Do you think maybe women emotional, men physical?
For men, they claim that. I mean,
they
claim that. They're here.
It's not a lot of us who are emotional,
Have you met
and
a
also,
person?
Yeah.
I'm saying, have you met a person named Stress? Stress will make you have sex with no need of emotions.
No, I mean,
so maybe we should recommend
Stress. The reason I'm saying is because Lydia said that this is in a concept of like partners, people who are together. I don't think you're talking about like the hookup culture, right?
No,
I think you're talking about.
I think there is no limit. I think there is no limit.
Right.
I don't think there's no limit.
Okay, I think in that case, then I think every woman, because I don't think there's a blueprint, honestly, on how to express these things. It goes with what works for you and what you're comfortable with. Because there's someone, regardless of the safe space they have, they probably will never feel comfortable sitting out of the blue and talking about it, unless if they're probably in the act. There are others who are like, you know what, on a casual Tuesday at 2 p.m., I'm sitting and let's just talk about this. There are people who are like that. So I think each person should feel comfortable with expressing it in a way that works for them, but definitely unique. Be authentic about it. That's the biggest tip that I can give. For myself, I think that it's important to be authentic. Don't try to be like Arielle. Don't try to be like any other person or Lydia.
I wish I can know.
You can know how to express. Trust me, Lydia, you are the most expressive person I've met in my life.
I think Dodo is definitely right. There's not a blueprint, but there's something that is true. A picture is worth 1,000 words.
Mm-hmm.
And the video is better. So,
oh my God, I'm not ready for this.
Well, I think with what Arielle is saying, though, it creates another problem.
Explain.
Please proceed.
It comes back to the same problem we're talking about. It's like masturbation, like you're saying. It is killing also like relationships, because I understand now I'm not married yet, but I do see. No, everything na iweka zita.
Wow, express, because to me it's funny how you can be comfortable talking about your sex life to your friend, and then you can't be comfortable talking about sex with the person you're going to have sex with. Because to me, being able to talk about sex with your partner is also, it's like, it's part of having sex in itself, because you're establishing some connections. So there cannot be any magical way of expressing. If you two can talk to each other. Maybe you're shy to face each other. I don't know, blindfold yourself and then talk and touch, like, you do some games, but yeah, but try to discuss, because it's I don't know, to some people, maybe in our culture, it means like when they talk about, well, first, if you have a chance to hear people talking about sex, it's basically about penetration. It's not about sex. It's about penetration. That's what, when they say sex, it's penetration. That's it. But to me, sex is beyond. It's about how I'm telling you good morning, and when we wake up. It's like how I greet you when you come home. It's like what I text you during the day. Like that's a whole package. And if everyone, if we allow ourselves, we swear, I'm gonna love you in sickness and whatever. Some people say they are marrying their best friends, whatever. But if you can't talk to that person, to that partner, I don't know, something is wrong with that person you're supposed to live the rest of your life with. Yeah. So the communication, there is no magical way to communicate. You just like talk, express yourself, how you feel.
Yeah, I think Letype brings a really, really good point. You know that I love reading books, and the more problematic the book is, I will definitely buy it. And the other day, I bought a book as to why people cheat. I highly recommend this book. It's so interesting. It was talking about that people cheat for, not because they want to, some do, but because of two reasons that have nothing to do actually with marriage or long-term partnership. They talk about humans are driven by two things. They're driven by routine. So you have your own routine, things that you do every day. You have a job, you have safety in your life. But people are also driven by adventure. That's why people go fight left and right. That's why we move countries. So a lot of times, marriage was, at the core of marriage, it was never built for you to be out here in these streets, wilding with your partner. It was truly built to create safety nets, that you have a back, the foundation of your life. So what happens is that you met this person, you had tremendous passion. This is considering that, you had good sex in the first time. And now you're together, you met in this adventurous space. And now you're married, and now comes the routine. Comes the kids, comes the job, comes post-depression, comes all these things that have removed the adventure out of the relationship. And on to Letype's point, and Doriane's point is sex, at the end of the day, it's more mental than it is physical at the end of the day, really good sex at the end of the day. So if you've removed what was core to purpose, all this passion between you two, it is really hard to get even to that orgasm that you're talking about. So I would say that what I'm realizing a lot of times is that now that travel has become much more comfortable, people are realizing that your partner is not just your husband, your wife. It's your lover.
Arielle, thank you.
No,
I love it.
I do agree with Arielle at a certain degree. Definitely what you said is true. I think communication is needed more, but more from the women's side. And guys, actually, like you say, we guys also need to see what we're telling each other, because I think when guys start discussing, and like you say, it all comes from the people who maybe the power has gone to, because women have been silenced for a long time. So I feel like the man sets the theme of the relationship. If the man is more like pifata, being quiet, acting as if they're holy, and not expressing exactly what they want, I think it like you said, the woman is then afraid to take charge and lead and show okay, this is but like she said, I don't think you would want to get married to someone who you do not see and have some certain type of thoughts when you see them. So it's, I think
you can have the thoughts. The other person have to be willingly to explore those thoughts with you. You know.
Very, very true. I accept, but I also think the hookup culture is also killing. I'll say the sex the way it is, because if, like, let's say, like you said, you've already discovered your body, you know how you like to, and like, let's say they meet with someone, maybe it doesn't work out, and then you meet with someone else. Is that time for them to learn who you are again, and or that is and people have different skills. So they're like, let's say Stephen Curry, who can throw 3 shots. There is LeBron James, who's very good at 2-pointers. So now you want someone who, but you know, it's a team. Right. So if you've seen all these plays, like, you cannot have a point guard and all in one person.
But I think where your 2 points meet is like in that communication, right? There is those thoughts that Arielle has, and then there is Aaron, who's maybe a 2-point shooter, or like, and then Arielle wants like a 3-point shooter. I don't know. But at the end of the day, it's the communication, and then to know, are you going to win that game all together?
Yes.
Let's go.
No, so
not on this podcast, but
yeah.
I hope, Lydia, we do not see any convocation tomorrow. Whenever this airs. But yeah, I do agree with Letype what he's saying. I think men actually are, like you say, men need to be more sincere with what they like, and and women also need to know that even men. I think there is just a way, basically. There's confusion which is not supposed to be there. Men want something, women want something, and the only place where it dies is in the communication. So I think if a man really loves you and cares for you and wants to see you happy, they would be willing to go the mile to do whatever it is to satisfy you. So it's not really a lot to ask.
But I have a question for the men though. Like, when you're going to the heavens with someone, is the objective to get to heaven together, or for you to like do this little trip and then whoever gets to heaven first will get to heaven first? Like, what's the objective here?
I think
you should be careful. You're responding for all the male gender.
Well, me, I would talk about myself. Thank you.
Since he has claimed to be the oldest and most experienced.
Not the senior.
It's your time.
As long as I reach heaven, I don't care.
Aaron is like, my guy.
Parole du sage. Le sage va parler.
Le sage.
Well, to me, it's the two of you going to heaven together.
Okay.
Heaven.
When I meet you, I'm not coming to perform. I'm not coming to win a title. No, I'm coming to do something together. It's not about me. It's well, there can be some situations, like those hookups, those quickies, when like just Mr. Stress has, been like visiting you a lot, and then, you need to release. You have to be like, hey, can you leave me alone for a few minutes? Like that, it can happen. In that way, it's just about you. It's just about me. I don't care about you. It's just about me. But if, like it's maybe a date, whatever, like it's someone you just want to be intimate with.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if there is that intimacy, it's not a performance. It's just the two of us. And then I have to ask you, I have to make sure, like if I come before you, I have to ask you, so how am I going to help you so you can reach? It's not like, oh my God, I need to take a shower. My bus is coming in 2 minutes. No, we don't do that. We don't do that. Or be like, oh no, I think I'm hungry. Can you get me something in the fridge? No. Like, business is not done. Like, all of the two of you needs to be like, okay, conclusion on a signé, the skill flow, now moving to the next chapter.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, let's conclude the conversation, and thank you so much for your perspective. I think we need this, controversial conversation, because things we avoid to discuss in public are actually the important, or how can I say that, are actually things we discuss the most in private. And I think that thank you so much for being courageous to be here to share this conversation. I know many people benefit from this. Again, I think someone said something. Everyone always have their own style, their own unique way of doing things. Whatever we shared here or we discuss here, it's no, we are not recommending you to choose any of the approach.
We might recommend. And then something I can add is just that you said those are the things we discuss in private. Yeah. The sad part is we discuss them in private with the wrong people.
My God!
Can you imagine, like, two men or two women married, but they are living a miserable sex life? They are talking between themselves, and none of them is going to talk to their partner. So they are talking about that in private. They have no solution. Well, maybe they have the solution, but they will leave that in their living room and then go back to their misery.
We actually do that. Yes.
Yeah, it's sad.
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's really a great one to conclude the conversation.
And they usually say in a partner, you have to make sure you are spiritually compatible, sexually compatible, and things like that. So if you are sexually compatible with someone and you are free, there is a time when sex is no longer really like the thing that keeps the relationship together. So it's more like going to be a spiritual mindset, the way things are. So I feel like if you're not in a relationship and sex is not going well, it's very easy for you to go somewhere else, to leave. So to easily go, instead of trying to fix that and trying to learn more about your partner. And it's very easy for you to just, you're getting what you want here. So there's no really commitment. It's like canceling a gym membership with commitment or without commitment. It's
yes.
It's a bit hard. So I think for it to actually work, for people to they have to, like, even for the girls to feel like I would say free to express themselves, and I think if like I would say openness, I'll definitely say hookup culture and relationship. Hookup culture will always have sexual issues.
But sometimes hookup may end up like a good relationship.
Honestly, on to Letype's, the best histories about sex are about hookups.
But I think what Arielle...
But then it gives you some ideas. Yeah. Like you then think, like you say, that this person is like, if it happened, like, let's say with just you, and maybe it was a mistake, they just did it, then maybe you were just a good person and they got to you. And in their head, they'll think this is what you do always. And I think even though it's not like that, it's very rare that you see people who are free to just, so it can create like things that will cause people to not be free. So like people will start thinking this is the way, and then you now want to open yourself up more, I would say.
I think
that's just my interesting subject, like about hookups.
Yeah, topic number 4,
especially with Arielle and Letype.
The
rest of us who sit in the gallery, gallery, sitting here with our popcorn.
No, but I think that's why people cheat more, I guess, because the sexual tension, like you said, it's like that thing that has been blocked from you. For once, I think women will go for that. So if you've there's been orgasm inequality, and you definitely don't see any signs of that getting fixed,
Definitely on Letype's point, I definitely think this is a topic that we need to explore further, because definitely I think we both have very, I would say, non-conformative ideas about what you're putting forth. But thank you for bringing up this very important topic. I would say for this one though, if people don't want misery, they should follow this podcast and send in your questions, because then we can start responding to them and having your names. Can even write you a little letter. Can put on some perfume. You know, each one of us has a stand here. So all to say, speak and have great sex. You will start that letter.
I will be your guest. I will be your guest.
No, for sure. I'll be in the peanut gallery too, sitting with my popcorn, listening, because
I'll definitely be there to listen.
But I like this perspective as well.
We should do a live. We should do a live about this thing. It's very
jamais. I have a job to keep. But definitely we should explore this, you know, just like we're exploring intimacy here.
Yeah, but I think I like the idea really emphasizing on the intimacy level, because I think it does put everything into perspective. It's not about performance. It's not about who's 2 point something. It's about how well two individuals can connect. So yeah, thank you so much. And I think I can recommend something at the end. I think role play as well is so helpful, you know, in partners, couples. That means each one get the opportunity to express freely their needs.
Role play.
Yes.
Sound like something you've explored, Letype.
Let's not talk about me, but in what culture? Like we're talking like global. We're talking global, right?
Yeah, global.
Global roles, of course.
There are some role play I'm trying to imagine in our culture.
Can you give us an example?
Well, I think the cop one. I've heard a lot about that. You know, we have to be honest.
Oh
you
my
know,
God.
these things are things we see. I think the cop and the burglar is something that is.
Yeah, the cop and the burglar, or the nurse and the patient. You know, like. I'll stop there.
oh Lord.
No, but I think yeah, people should be willing to accept, because like I'm imagining if you and I are married for 50, 60, or having sex for like every day, is at some point you have to
who has energy for sex every day? Jesus
spice
Christ.
it up. I think you know.
Are you trying to save your job?
Nah, I'm saying there are some guys who can definitely go every day. It's
He's pitching. Whoever's dating Aaron, listen.
He's there to serve.
And also taking the lead. I think to close the gap, I really encourage women taking the lead. If you really know what satisfies you, like I think it's important to really take the lead.
It's a communication. It's like between the two. There is like whoever feels the need to talk, you know, like talk, express yourself, and then pull the other one. And you know, it's.
I think you should think of it again. Sorry to go back. I think business has really easy structures to understand. Not everyone can be a leader, and not everyone can be a manager. You know. So in your relationship, you need to know who is the leader, the innovator. Usually leaders don't know how to do the details. They're just big ideas. Managers are there to like make things practical, you know? So each one of you should have a role and then have a great product and let us know again. Send us reviews. We need to hear from you about what you want. But have a leader and have a manager, and then you can have babies that will be your team members or something like that. Don't include them though. But I'm just saying, teach them in the process.
Yeah, I think that there's no one way or the other. I think it comes to, you know, what two people share, the intimacy level, and I think different perspective as well. You know, however you feel comfortable, whatever, you know, I think different perspectives are welcome, and I think people have the unique way of, you know, different bodies, different ways we experience pleasure, and I think there's no limit. So it depends on everyone's needs. And
if we have time though, Lydia, I have a question though for the man though. Do you know when a woman comes?
You mean when they don't fake it?
Yeah,
I'm serious. Like, can you
That's
make
a
the
good
difference
question.
between someone faking it and someone genuinely coming?
Well, first of all, I should know when a woman comes because I don't like to have sex with someone who doesn't express themselves. So if you can't tell me I'm coming, so you need to tell me.
PSA.
PSA.
Oops. I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
Also, Lydia, there is something, especially because I believe most of the listeners might be even people from our community, if I'm not wrong. I wanted to add this because, like you mentioned that the conversations that people are uncomfortable having in public are the conversations that we have in private and with the wrong people. I think it's also that that mentality that if you're educated about something, it means that you are the person who practices the most. And that's why people don't talk about certain things, because they're afraid of that judgment. You know, but if you are very knowledgeable about finances or AI, it does not make you a person who has a degree in whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So I think people should differentiate the knowledge, having knowledge about a certain thing, and the lifestyle that people live, you know? Like Arielle might know, she might know most things about finances, but she's in marketing. Or Lydia might know something about, I don't know, agriculture, but you are more on the health side. So I think that mentality will help people actually have open conversations, because I'm sure if you were to invite like 20 people, some people would be like, you know what, I might not come, because how are people going to perceive me if they see me on this part of this conversation? But I think we need to be a more educated, knowledgeable community and society, and because that's what hinders our growth as a community, and that's what keeps fostering those issues that people are having. The fear of judgment is the biggest thing in community wise, even in relationships. Like we were saying, someone, I feel comfortable to come and talk to Arielle, but if I'm married, I don't want to talk to my husband. She doesn't want to talk to her husband. It's the judgment that we're scared of. But it starts with our surrounding, our homes. People have these bridal showers, but these are the conversations that they should be having there. If you're preparing someone to go in a long-term, lifetime commitment, you should be having these conversations. But I haven't been in many bridal showers. I've actually, all the bridal showers that I've been to were here in Canada. It was more of, friends having a good time, fun. But from what I hear from my friends, these conversations are not the conversations that people are having in these spaces. And you're preparing someone to go be a wife, or a man to go be a husband. But still, you can't tell them about the most important things that they need to know, because there is no, even in the actual concept of it, people are not talking about it because of that fear of judgment. So I think that's something as a community that we need to understand, that if someone is educating you about something, it does not mean that because Letype is talking about all these things, he is sleeping around every other day, 7 women for 7 days. It does not mean that. It does not mean that. It just means that he's a person who's willing to share what he's learned. Maybe he's learned it from here. I'm learning a lot. If I go and share it with my friends, it does not mean that it's because I have lived it. I believe that sometimes some people go through certain situations that you don't have to, know? So, and if we create that non-judgmental space, then we'll be able to learn from each other and actually thrive as a community without having to struggle.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I like that. And I think, when I was in my undergrad, I was always interested in learning about sexuality because I was like, I need another perspective, not from traditional understanding, culture, religious, because I think this is why we need this conversation. We always associate sex with shame, sex with religion, sex with, I'm like, thinking about food, the need to eat. If I say I don't like cheese, nobody judge me. If I say I like sweet potatoes, okay. But if I say I enjoy this type of sex, then, oh my God, what's going on? But these are really human being needs.
Yeah.
I think more we shame these needs. I remember actually learning about it in my undergrad. They were saying that I was like, questioning numbers, for example, of HIV in North America. I think by that time was around 2017. Just Canada-wide, we didn't even have 80,000 of HIV positive. Then I was like, how come in what they call underdeveloped countries, we have like millions of HIV positive? Then they were saying something that when sex is associated with shame, people are more likely to make bad decisions. Even when we try to overprotect our kids, conversation of sex, health, sex, then they're more likely to make bad choices. So they're like, I remember asking men from my community, our community, I was like, if you meet a woman and you're about to have sex and you don't have condom and the woman offers, she said that I have condom, what would you do? All the men, these were like maybe 5 men. They were like, oh my goodness, I would just run away. The woman wants. I'm like, so you would rather the woman hide the condom. If they have like an infection, they give it to you. But a woman really trying to protect you is a problem. I was like, oh my goodness, these were like men who were so open. So I think this conversation, when we have it, Doriane said it, just because we're open to share this does not mean that, this is our daily life. And even if it was, there's nothing wrong with that because these are human being needs and this is who we are. Because I grew up in church and most of the time you hear your pastor, wife and the mama pastor and papa pastor, they will be sharing their experiences, and most of the time they teach you based on their experiences. I was always like, this is your experience. It can be one way for everybody. They'll be like, oh, before you do this, take a hot tub, have a hot tower, make sure you call your woman at least 3 times a day before you meet night time. This is what you feel to practice. It's not wrong. It's not wrong. Sometimes you go with emotions, sometimes there's no emotions. Like all these things you practice does not work. That's why I was like, there is another perspective. There's so many ways we understand sex from culture background, religion, like religious background, so many ways, political as well. We were discussing about inequalities. So yeah, I think this was a great conversation. I don't know if anyone has something to conclude with, but thank you, really. I learned so much, but we still need the masterclass from Letype and
Arielle.
I would just say I agree with both you and Doriane for sure. When we're discussing this, it's not because we're like promoting whatever. This is a topic obviously for adult people. We're just being honest. These are things that we think about, and we don't say it's like, when you're politically correct, there's like, okay, don't hear me wrong, but there is like, let's say, like somehow, like, let's say people, like you see this political correctness, like calling someone a dwarf is wrong. You would rather call them someone who's, I would say maybe horizontally challenged. But these are things that we see. You see that someone, but then there's a way, obviously, to not offend, and it makes sense. But having these topics also sets you up for a successful, I would say, relationship and marriage. Because if, like, let's say guys are not told how to treat girls, and let's say it's the first time, like, let's say maybe Christians who have told to abstain, and they get into bed with a girl first time. I've heard topics, I've heard a lot of, and all this is through conversations I do have. I personally am not a fan of small talks, like asking people like, how are you doing? I like having conversations which are more like have content, meaning like something that can change, like something that is beneficial. So you can learn a lot of girls, like from those conversations I've had girls who explain, like, let's say let's say their virginity was taken in a very wrong way, and that has been affecting them all their life. And even when they see the guy or how they receive whatever. So like, let's say a couple loves each other so much and they get married and go to this honeymoon and a guy messes up that big time like that. But we could have saved him. So it's something, it's good to have in your mind. We're not promoting or anything, and you use it for whatever you want to use it for.
I definitely think Doriane brought a really good point, and I think that's why I'm so grateful that this space exists, Lydia, is because a lot of us come from a culture of replication. Like, I think, and don't throw me stones, but I think when I hike, for example, I hike a lot. I love country music. I wear my little lemons. My children Starbucks are taller than me. I travel by myself. By Rwandan culture, I am Ntamucongera. But it's because umuco technically is defined by these specific ways that they think that a woman or a man should be in our culture. So when we are discussing these topics, it's not, oh, this is a different idea. It's all about, there's a lot of, you're exploring. We are always internalizing things. We are always pointing fingers in our culture because anything that is outside of what we're used to, it's a problem. So I think definitely, especially in this space, there's a lot of learning about like people are layered. People are multi-layered, And if we all accept that we're multi-layered people and that we can live in society by being different, but having like commonality, I think the society will be much better. But the truth is that we come from a society that promotes familiarity, that we'll not be discussing topics with having like one view of the world. All of us have different views. And we will just ask that if you're coming here, share your view again. We said, send us your DMs, but generally, like, we are not here to tell you what you want to hear, to be honest.
I would say that, it's okay to be judged, as long as you're going after your happiness. You'll be the one.
I like that.
Yeah, you'll be the one sleeping well at night while they'll be struggling to fall asleep. So who's winning at the end? It's you. True. So like, just be you.
So
just
having your orgasm.
Your happiness. It doesn't matter if they're gonna judge you anyways. Because if you're not happy with your partner will go cheat, and then they'll be like laughing at you because you can't keep your household. So I guess you'd rather be laughed at because of asking and keeping your household together than being laughed at because you or your partner went outside to cheat, or or your household, or you divorce or whatever. It doesn't go well in your couple. So let them judge and just go after happiness.
Thank you. You have to be comfortable for people not liking you.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Okay, friends, let's stop from here. We want to hear your thoughts and be free, be happy. Life is to enjoy. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate a lot.
That's it for the week. We hope you gathered your dose of resilience for the week ahead. Follow Gen 365 Podcast to know when the next episode comes up on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podbean, or Google Podcasts. Share with your friends, community, and family, and do not also forget to follow and share feedback or questions on our community organization social media at Beyond the Veil Mission on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. Or learn more about our work via our website at www.beyondtheveilmission.com. In the spirit of building resourceful, stronger communities, we can also help your community or business or organization to share your news and event on our podcast. Please email us for collaboration at podcastgen365@gmail.com. Thank you. Bye.